Cryptocurrencies turn positive after Biden introduces new sanctions against Russia. In a shocking turn this morning, it seemed like the stock markets had digested the Ukraine news, and now the crypto markets, with Bitcoin and Ethereum rising about 8 or 9% in a single day. Perhaps because of fear over the sanctions and the success of Bitcoin for getting around them. Dan, Eve, is this a proper reading by the news? They've drawn a line between two current events. Do they match up perfectly?
Well, I saw that and I thought it was quite funny because obviously again it's this correlation that is not necessarily causation. And actually when you think about it, that I think it's a bit silly to say that crypto, Bitcoin's gone green because Russia, because Biden's introduced sanctions. Because maybe it's because people are realizing that you know Russia might be scrambling to get their hands on a lot more Bitcoin because of the fact that if it can be used so easily to evade these sanctions, and maybe that's what's driving the price up, and people know that it's gonna put the demand up, right? Um, yeah, I don't know. I just think that just America putting sanctions against Russia, I don't think it's enough for for that to pump Bitcoin so much. There's I think a lot of other factors, and even things like the supply chains, right? Like at the moment, you've got, and even if you look at like how it's just disrupting, say, air travel, right? Like you look at Ukraine right now, and no one wants a situation like the fight that was shot down in 2014, right? So like everyone's avoiding Ukrainian airspace like nobody's business. So this is going to have a far-reaching effect on supply chains. And that's probably going to push prices up, which is going to add to inflation. And what does inflation bring? A weakening or more expensive goods, and therefore, how can you hedge against more expensive goods and inflation? You can use Bitcoin. So I think it's just a bit more complicated than just Biden putting some sanctions down and going naughty Biden, naughty Putin.
I like the way they think, though. I'm imagining all these evil geniuses with their costumes and everything suddenly running to the buy window to buy Bitcoin. They're like, Bitcoin evades sanctions. Every evil genius has to get some. And it really seems more like to me that they're only 21 million Bitcoin and that they're worth something. And then it went down for a couple days and everyone was freaked out and people had to cover their stock market bets and all that kind of thing. But more likely, and again, I have no information on this, not making financial advice here, but I think some smart money, some big old smart money came along and said, hey, Bitcoin are cheap. I'm going to buy them up. I don't think they bought them up to evade sanctions. I don't think it's a big conspiracy, or they just now realized they're like, oh my gosh, you can use Bitcoin to evade sanctions. I never knew that before yesterday. Give these guys some credit. They have some, departments working on this. They have some intelligence. I just think it's more likely people bought it and that the safe haven thing perhaps eventually came through to us. Josh Shigala, do you think Bitcoin's up because it's sanction free, amazing currency being bought by evil warlords all over the world?
Uh, no, this is this is typical mainstream media. There's sort of just to draw that line and go, that's why, and everyone goes, oh, that's why. Yeah, it's like no, like you said, there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of reasons. One of the things that's fascinating about Bitcoin is that I've definitely noticed is just like gold, actually, at the same time, when a crisis happens, this happened at the start of COVID as well, as the world started to come to realize that planes are getting grounded everywhere worldwide, and there's a probable pandemic. It was spreading around the mainstream news outlets. Um, everything tanked. Everything tanked. Gold, Bitcoin, stocks, everything. And Bitcoin isn't there to protect you during these maniacal moments of total panic, maniacal, I should say. It's in these times for the long run. So after the panic settles, what stays down is usually fear. What goes back up is gold and rare metals bricks and mortar, food, alcohol, also entertainment goes back up because people are depressed, they want to be entertained. So during these times, that's what tends to happen. Everything collapses as everyone's trying to just get liquidity, sell their shit, get liquidity in. And now, okay, I'm in my safe spot. I've covered some positions, bad positions. Now, where do I deploy this? Oh, okay, Bitcoin, gold, okay, and then they reposition, and that's when it goes up. So if you do see these big cascades in red, yeah, it's that's the old thing: buy when there's blood in the streets, and that's what you do. But not financial advice, of course, just for education.
And this connects well into our exit question, competing versus the predictor of all predictors, the Bitcoin ball. Dan, Eve, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
I'm going for higher. Yeah, higher.
Josh Agala, higher or lower?
Higher, baby.
All right, and now the Bitcoin predictor ball. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? It's hard to read. Ask again later. Ask again later.
What a
Yeah.
cop
Say,
out. What a cop out.
sometimes, you just can't predict the future. The ball's just not ready.